Hi everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I thought it would be fun to make this slimline card with a little bit of a patriotic theme to it, which could be used for a birthday or a 4th of July card. So let's go ahead and get started. So for the stamps today, we'll be using the Art Impressions Barnyard Animal Cubby set with all these cute little critters and the cute little barn that is interactive, and I'll show you that here shortly. Those little doors will open and close. And there's also that little fence as well. For paper, I'm using the Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock. And for ink, I'm using my Versafine Onyx black ink, which is a permanent black ink. So I am also going to grab that fence here in a minute, and I'll stamp about 6 of those. So let's go ahead and stamp the animals and the barn. And to press this out, I'm using my STAMPendable. And I'm just going to use that to press down that image. And I've placed that in my mini MISTI stamp positioner. So let's start some coloring here. And I'm starting with the light pink on the cheeks and the light gray for the body. So I'm using my blender pen to do my blending. And I'm just going to keep that very light. I'm just adding a few shadows. And then with my deep red, I'll add a little bit of red there, some orange on the beak. And then let's go back to that light pink again for the cheeks on my little pig. And then for coloring here, I'm going to start with the light brown. But I did want it to have a bit of a pinky tone to it. So I'm actually going to grab that light pink and just add a little bit of that around the edges. And then I'll pull these two colors together. And that, again, will just give it a little bit more of that pinky shade. And then I'll add a little bit of pink in the ears there. And you just want to blend in. I'm going to keep the middle of the face the lightest, and then I can kind of come back and blend out those cheeks a little bit more. You can always add more pink here if it gets a little bit faded out. Now let's go ahead and do this little hen. And again, I'm going to that deep red, and then a little bit of pink on the cheeks. And I am listing the colors here in the upper left-hand corner as we go along. And again, these are a water-based marker, so you could certainly use a water brush here to do your blending if you prefer. Now here I'm going to use those same colors that we already used. I'm using the beige, the dark red, a little bit of the orange, a little bit of pink on the cheeks again. And you'll see here at the end, once I colored this in, I just felt like it needed a little bit more shadowing, but I didn't want to add any brown. So I'll come in with my light gray marker here and just add a little shadow around the bottom there. So going back to that light gray again, I'm going to color in my little lamb, a little pink on the cheeks again. And I do want to keep this mostly white, so that light gray is just for some simple shadowing here. These little critters are really simple and easy to color in. They're just so tiny that it doesn't take long at all. So now I've got my beige, and I'll add some shadows here and there, kind of down under the arms there and along the bottom. And then again, when I blend this out, I'm going to try to keep the center of the face the lightest. Now I'm not using two colors here. I'm just going to simply use that beige, and I'll just add another layer of color to darken up some of those areas. Now with the zigs, if you do get too much color, you can always grab that color off your image and scribble it onto your scrap paper, and just keep removing color till you get that exact shade that you're looking for. So here I'm using the yellow and the bright yellow, and then a little touch of orange on the beak there. And I'll just blend those together. So again, this little barn has an interactive element to it. Those little doors on the front of the barn open up, and the little doors up in the loft also open and close. So you could put a little sentiment behind there. We're going to put some little critters back there, but you could certainly add some sentiments in there if you wanted to. Now I'm going to that deep red, and I'm going to color in kind of around the edges here, and I'll just sort of pull that color in towards the center. So again, I'm going for that patriotic theme, so I'm using reds and blues and white or light gray. And again, I just thought it would be fun to give it that theme for 4th of July that's coming up. If you have a 4th of July birthday or anything like that, this would be a great fun card to give somebody. So now here I've got the blue-gray color, so I'm going to give the barn sort of that more rustic look with the blue-gray, and we'll be adding some brighter blues later on. And this area is a little bit larger, so I like to start around the edges where my shadows would be and just kind of pull those colors in. I'll add a little bit of shadowing down at the bottom and pull that up towards the top. Now I should have probably waited to color the red colors because red, it tends to bleed for some reason, and you'll see when I do the trim work on the barn that I do get a little bit of that red color in my trim there. I'll show you that here in a second. So again, I'll just stay with this pretty blue color for now, just adding my shadows. And I just think this little barn is so cute. This could be used for lots of different things. And here I'll just add that same blue to the top of the silo, just adding it right there at the bottom and then pulling up towards the top. Now here's where I was going to use just a light gray, and you can see there, that's where that red bled into the light gray. And although here you see me trying to remove it, so I'm just taking my marker, pulling that color off and scribbling it onto my scrap paper. And although it removed most of it, it did leave a little tint of that red there. So I'm going to come in with a little bit darker gray here in a minute, and that'll take care of that just fine. I did try covering it again with the light gray. I still wasn't that happy with it, so I will come back in and fix that. Now I wanted the silo to be mostly white, so I'm just adding a little light gray, just a few little shadows here in between those little rungs on that ladder. Now the window openings will get cut out, so you don't need to bother coloring those in. Here I'm just doing some of the detail work here, and here's where I decided to come in with a little bit darker gray and just add a few more shadows here, and that'll cover up any of that red that was showing. I'll use that same gray on the roof of my little barn, and I'm just going to add it just along the lines there and then kind of pull that in. Now I've got that beige again. I'm going to add that to this little ladder. And let's take a closer look at the finished little critters in our little barn here. I'm just doing a little bit more blending there on that door. I did want it to have a rustic look, so I'm not going to blend it out perfectly. I do want it to have that rustic feeling to it. So again, that's how it looks. So let's go ahead and quickly color in these little fences. I'll do them all the exact same way. I'm using that beige, and then I'll blend that out a little bit. And I'll come back in with that same beige color and just keep darkening that up until I get the look that I'm going for. So let's grab the coordinating dies. What's great about this little set is it has all these coordinating dies, so it's really easy to cut these out. And now let's go to the Art Impressions Floral Truck set. I want to grab that little banner there. I wanted to do a little red, white, and blue banner at the top of our card, and I also wanted a flag and some balloons to celebrate the day. So I went to that set that's called the Art Impressions Enjoy the Ride set. So I'll quickly stamp these. I end up stamping 3 of the balloons. And now we can go ahead and color these in. And for this banner, I'm using light gray, deep red, and deep blue. So this is a little bit more of a darker blue than we use for the barn. So I wanted a different shade of blue here. And I'll just do every other one, every third one. So red, white, and blue. And for the white ones, I'm just going to use that light gray marker just to add a little bit of a shadow there. So I colored all of those in the exact same way, just placing a little color off to the right hand side and then pulling that color off towards the left. Now for the flag, again, I'm just going to repeat that red, white, and blue pattern. I'm adding that color sort of towards the bottom and top and just pulling it in towards the center. And then for these balloons, I'll add color just towards one side here and then kind of pull that in. And where these balloons kind of come in contact with one another, I'll add a little bit more of a shadow there. And I did those other two sets the same way. And this little banner does have a coordinating die, so I'll tape that down with a little bit of purple tape. And I'll use some scissors to cut out the rest of those because those don't have coordinating dies. And what I'll do is just leave a little white border all the way around. So I went ahead and cut those out. Now I just want to cut that little weather vane right off the top of my barn, and I'm going to replace that with this little flag. So I'm just trimming that down a little bit. I'll grab my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive and just place that right at the top of the barn here. And again, that just replaces that little weather vane. And now I'm going to my Art Impressions Slimline die set, and I'll grab that second largest one. Again, I've got some Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock. I'll go ahead and die cut that, and that's going to leave that pretty stitched border all the way around. Now I've got this stencil, which is from Lawn Fawn, and it's called the Sunray background stencil. And we're going to add this sunray towards the top of our card. So I'm just lining it up with the very top edge. I'm using my Make Art station to just hold this in place for me. Just those magnets will hold that down for me and keep it nice and straight. And for ink, I'm going to be using the Scattered Straw Distress Oxide ink from Tim Holtz. And I'm using a blending brush here, and I'll go ahead and add that all the way up to the top here. And I will let it fade out just a little bit towards the top. So once I have that completely filled in, I'm going to add a little bit more of the darker shade down at the bottom, just a little bit. And now what I want to do is just take the ink that's left on my brush, and I'm going to kind of fill in that white area with the Scattered Straw. I'm just blending that in. So you'll still have that two-tone effect, but it won't be quite as stark with that without that white there. So now I've got some water from my Distress sprayer, and I'm going to spatter this panel all over. And then I'll go ahead and use a paper towel and just blot up any excess. And that's going to leave some really pretty spatters on this panel. And just a quick reminder that all of the products I'm using today are listed and linked down below and also on my blog. And you can see how pretty that looks. So let's set that aside. Now I'm going back to that same die, that second largest one, and now I need a panel that is about 3 inches tall, and I do want to continue that stitch border down to towards the bottom of my card. This will be the grassy border area that we're creating here. So I'm just going to tape that down at about the 3-inch mark, and then I'll go ahead and run that through the die cutting machine. So again, that will fit on the bottom of the card. And I'm using Twisted Citron and Rustic Wilderness to do my coloring here. So I'll start with that lighter color. I'm just going to add a nice even layer of that all the way around. Then let's come in with that Rustic Wilderness and add a little bit of a shadow here. And I'll be leaving the top of that grass the lightest. Now, after I did that, I thought, well, it is a barnyard scene, so I probably need to dirty that up just a little bit. So I'm going to grab the ground espresso and a smaller blending brush. And I'm going to add a little bit of that darker color right along the bottom here, just to give it a little bit more of a rustic feel, a little bit more of a dirt, kind of like there's a little bit of dirt there mixed in. So I'm just going to gently blend that out. And now that looks a little bit better to me. And that again will sit right at the bottom of that panel. So let's go ahead and glue those two together. And again, that'll complete that stitch border all the way around. So I've got some cardstock here that measures 8.5 by 7 inches. I'll score that at 3.5 inches, and that'll be our standard slimline card, which will measure 3.5 by 8.5. We'll just press that out with the bone folder. And now we can go ahead and add that panel to the front of our card. And you see that's going to leave a nice border all the way around there. So I'll just center that on the card. Now we can start kind of laying this out, figuring out about where we want all these little pieces to be. I definitely want that little banner to be at the very top there. And then these little critters can be poking out of all these little openings. So you have those two windows that were die cut when we ran it through the die cutting machine. And then again, you have those two little doors as well. I'll add the balloons to my little cow. Since one of his hands is up in the air, I think that works out really cute. And then I'm going to tuck that little hen behind that loft door there. I'll add this cluster of balloons up over top of the silo. I just wanted to extend the card up a little bit more. So adding those balloons kind of bring your eye up towards the top of the card, and that little banner will do the same thing. So I'm going to put some balloons in the hands of the hen there, or the wing of the hen, I should probably say. And then again, I'll just finish tucking in some of these little critters. And this is just so adorable. I think this is so cute. So now to pop up the barn, I'll use my Scotch foam mounting tape, and I'm just going to cut it into some small areas. You do want to make sure to avoid those little doors because I do want at least most of them to open up. So let's place this just maybe about a ½ inch below the grass line there. And then I can go ahead and glue on the rest of these, and I'll pop up some of these as well. And for this one, I'll just add a little bit of glue down here at the bottom. And then I did cut and color a few more of the fences than I needed. I think in the end I used 4 of these. Oh no, I'm sorry. No, I guess I did use all 6 of those because I had this border go all the way across the front of the card. So I'm just kind of cutting them down and lining those up. Now we can pop up the little cow. There's lots of critters in the Art Impressions collection, so you could certainly add any of those to this little scene. And also from any of your other collections that you might have would be really cute, any of your smaller images. So I'll glue down the banner, and it fits perfectly across this card panel here. I'm going to pop up the little lamb. And then here's where I decided to cut and color one more of these little critters to pop in that window right in the center up at the top there. So I didn't even need to color in the entire image. I just colored part of it, and then I'm just going to put a little bit of glue right down there in that window opening and tuck that right inside. Now I've got my white gel pen, and I'm going to add some highlights here and there, and I'll add some little polka dots to some of these balloons. And let's go back to the fence. Here's where I decided to add a few more of the fence pieces here, just right up where the barn is. I just thought it kind of made it look like the entire farm was kind of fenced in. So I'm just cutting those down so they fit right along the edge of my card panel here. So let's take a closer look at this finished card, and these little critters are just so sweet. And again, for this one, I did only have the left side of that door on the barn pop open. I did glue down the other portion of it there because I wanted to put my little piggy standing in there. But again, that'd be a great place for a little sentiment. So thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you had fun. If you enjoyed today's video, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. As always, thank you so much and have a great day. Bye-bye.